Hello everyone, I'm Katrin Kuskova, and today I'm going to present to you end-to-end design bug bash. I'm going to be talking for almost 45 minutes, so let's know each other a little bit better, right? I've been a product designer for more than 7 years for now, and currently I'm working at Omio. It's a travel booking platform where you can search and purchase ticket, no matter if you're planning to go on bus, train, or by plane. And during my work, I've been really lucky to adopt the experience I gained while working in companies of different sizes and fields. For example, from B2B to B2C, and from small ones to medium ones, having around like 500 people. But today I'm going to be focusing on the experience I gained during the last September at Omio. Our design team had a chance to run an end-to-end design bug bash. And me personally, I was helping with organizing, structuring, and leading it. As the result, we improved our understanding of the product, of the UX state of it, found more than 200 design bugs, prioritized them, and at the moment we fixed just critical ones, but still it's good progress. And me personally, I do believe that end-to-end design bug bash is an important design health check. It's basically a like health tracker, right? And it's an important procedure, and it doesn't matter how big or small your company is, or if you have a whole design department or just one designer, no matter, it's still a nice and efficient thing to do. Why and for whom? We will deep dive in a minute. And plus, the second step of our presentation, I will give you more tips how to actually organize it, lead, and then get the best outcome of it. So let's start. Let's start from the beginning. Reality is not perfect. Until your product, I hope so, is still alive and growing and developing, there are going to be bugs no matter what, right? Especially if you're working in an agile environment and not waterfallish. And most of us, I assume, are working in agile one. So please do remember that bugs are a natural and unavoidable part of the process. Of course, it's a nice thing to have a goal of being bugless, but it's about perfect, right? It's about perfect world. It's not nothing to do with the real world we are dealing with. So our design files and live product usually differs. Agree? And of course, it depends. Of course, every product has its own life cycle, and the amount of bugs can really differ from the state of maturity of your company. If it's a small one, if it's just the beginning of your startup, or you already have been in a while in the field and you basically know what you're doing and polishing. But I assume there's still going to be some A/B tests running, which usually not as consistent from the user experience point of view. So the trickiest part here, not to be frustrated about bugs and not to run into actually eliminating all the possible bugs. You won't do it anyway. But the trick is here to be aware of it, to be conscious, to raise the awareness of this experience, to make an analysis of it, to understand the current condition you are at, right? And then once you understand it, once you analyze it and gather all kind of statistics about where you are right now, you can then control it. You can use it as a tool. You can understand where you are. And please do remember, that, of course, a ship in a port is safe, but that's not what ships are built for, right? So what's Workbench is in general, right? And how it can help us. Usually when you're saying bug bash, you're assuming that, okay, it's something testing, maybe QA department is doing it, maybe QA engineers are doing it, maybe you have an automated QA process, right? So it's usually done with a tech focus, and the question you are asking is like, does this function work? Does it work correctly or not? For whom? What's the blocker here, and etc. And of course, bug bash as a methodology is supposed to be for agile development. Yeah. So what's about design bug bash? What's the difference here, right? And why we're going to be talking here from design perspective. So there are three main ingredients. I'll be talking more about each of it. The first one is end-to-end testing, which is basically you should do testing not for a feature, not for a separate part, but from very, very beginning of your customer journey until its end, right? Your beginning, and you, I assume, know it, sometimes starts not even with a home page or landing page. It could be some brand campaigns, some campaigns in social media. It could be even offline. So please start, if it's possible, of course, from the very, very beginning, and then continue till the end. And usually end is kind of vague. It's not the purchase itself. It could be post-purchase, for example, refund process. It could consist of contacting customer service or making a share with a friend, etc. So the wider you can be, the better for your design health check, right? The second thing is the design team as a testing core. It means we are getting from the focus on tech side to a design side. So we are more into design focused phase, right? We are not questioning if the feature works or not. We're focusing on how it works, what's the experience there, how the user feels himself, right? Is our journey frictionless or not? And yeah, the design bugs, it's the third one as a main focus. As I've told you, not a function, not the logic on your backend, but basically the feeling, the logic, and the context overall, not for one feature, right? Remember, for the whole flow and journey. So let's deep dive into each of the aspects, see how we can use it as a tool, and then jump into organizing it. Okay, now we have three main ingredients, but we are kind of still questioning ourselves, what are we going to use it for? What's the outcome here, right? So the first and the most obvious outcome is basically design bug bash can give you an opportunity to reduce your user interaction and user experience and consistency through the whole project. So the first, for example, here you have 3 buttons, and across the product, there looks in general the same, but still you can see that they're kind of like different corners, different letters, etc. So this is the first surface, what design bug bash can give you, but it's just the surface. It's just one scratch. So the second one. Secondly, end-to-end design bug bash provides you an opportunity to actually analyze and to focus on user experience problems and users' bumps through the journey, right? When your flow is going, yes, I'm super interested, I'm getting involved in your product, in love with it, and then you have a bump, right? Just maybe a small one, maybe then a bigger one. So Design Bug Bash gives you this opportunity to experience these bugs, to basically track them. Of course, from your design perspective, we are not the whole user panel, right? But still, we have our knowledge, we have our understanding of how user and human mind works. So please use it. Apart from visual bugs, there is a whole list. You can dive into more user flow bugs. You can nail all the frictions. You can have an overlook of your information architecture, because sometimes we are adding, like, blocks by blocks by blocks, because we're in Agile, we are doing kind of modular system. But at some point, this modular system can just fall apart because of your information architecture doesn't make that much sense anymore. So please also point it out. Then it can give you also an opportunity to look more into semantic and context in the user mindset, even in copywriting and voice of your brand. Thirdly, you as a designer, or you as a product manager, or even as a developer, you can experience during the Design Bug Bash different parts of your product. Especially if you're working in a medium or large company, usually you as a designer have just an opportunity to work on some fragments, some features. You're not working with the whole product itself, right? So during end-to-end Design Bug Bash, you can switch, you can experience, okay, what's happening on your in our help center, or what's happening on our mobile application. And for example, me as designer working more with a web application, right? So it will provide you a deeper understanding of the product for all team members. That's why it's important to invite not only designers, but have maybe 1, 2, or 3 product managers involved, and also developers. Then you will have a feeling of the product, which consists of not separate blocks, but actually as a whole thing, as one piece. That's how it should be, right? Because at the end, you're building one product. You're not building, oh, here's A and here's C, and then deal with it. No, it's the whole. It's ABC. It's not just small parts. It's the whole alphabet, right? Then it gives you the focus, or an opportunity to basically focus not on a feature, but on the flow. And designers themselves will have more opportunity to understand the challenges of each other, and then to support or to empathize more with each other. Because if we're working in medium or large company and there are tons of designers, sometimes we are not even aware what other design pods are doing, right? And we can't actually feel or understand their challenges, not the outcome, not the designs, but actually the challenges, their questions in the mind, their blockers, and etc. So it's also an opportunity which you can gain through end-to-end Design Bug Bash. And the next one is about UX maturity. I made a small pause because I think it's one of the vital part in each company, which we should think of. But unfortunately, usually we are not at the stage of that mature company. So that's why I totally recommend to invite as much different stakeholders as possible and actually have them in your design end-to-end backbash to feel you, to feel users, because they will experience your product from a user perspective, right? And all of it, for us, for sure, and I hope for you, will raise UX maturity within your company, inside the company. And that's why Design Bash has an impact on your company process, on understanding the necessary user experience practices to be made. Maybe you will get more resources, maybe you will hire more researcher or do more field study or ethnography if you need it, for sure. I mean, like, it's all tools, right? But inviting people and being loud about what are you gaining from Design Bash, it creates an overlapping moments across different departments. And it gives the inner understanding, you know, because your managers, your copywriters or developers are gonna be testing it themselves, are gonna be experiencing it, and they will feel the same feeling that some users do. That's how they will be more connected to user problems and understanding why it's important to have actually user-centered approach. And one of the last thing that Design Bash can give you as a company and as a design department, but not least, that it's actually an opportunity for design team be a starting point for actually creating tasks. It depends, of course, on your company, but for example, at the many companies that I worked with, most decisions are made by product managers or product owners. And I mean that the roadmap is already built and we as design team just gathering the tasks to be done. However, the outcome of Design Bash can lead you to design bugs, and then you as a designer can be the first initial advocate saying, hey, we need to fix it, that's why. And then it will be put on a roadmap and on a Jira, right, if you're using Jira. And that's how you're basically turning it around, not starting with a product manager initiative, but basically from a design initiative. Okay, no more words. Better just jump into examples, right? So how does it look like? This is the pictures we took during our Design Bash. So it's a full day. Don't think about it as 2, 3, 4 hours. Usually it takes about 4 hours, but you're going to be super exhausted and frustrated also at some point. Super exhausted even after 3 hours. So book the full day for it. Then design team should be involved for sure. It's the core. And again, try to invite at least 1 or 2 product managers and some developers. Then we had a lunch break. We had some small prizes to compensate our frustration and tiredness. And we had small drinks and after party. I won't say that it was a party at all. And you will learn why. Because it feels exhausting. You can see here plates are still empty. We're not that interested in food. We're just lying. We're kind of overwhelmed with the whole, I'd say, cognitive load, because you're doing super multitasking at the same time when you're doing design bug bash. This is our example of the outcome, and I hope that it's going to be nearly the same for you, because for us it worked well, and I tried to map it so that any company can adapt it. So stage 1, that's basically organizing and having bug bash. That's your bug bash day. Stage 2 is basically after you led bug bash, you usually have a deck with bugs. For us, it was more than 200 design bugs. We also did rough estimation of it. The same day we were reporting bugs. Then we had a presentation. We scaled it up to the company level. We were pretty loud. We organized a work stream across the whole company. And the main goal of this work stream was basically fixing these basics, fixing these bugs. That's why the next step is a roadmap and more precise prioritization and estimation. And then we created around 60 tickets in Jira. And right now we're still executing them. And we're also tracking how many bugs are still there, how we are doing right now. And I hope that in future we will repeat it. And I'm recommending to do this design health check at least once per year. And now let's go how to do it. Okay, now let's jump to the most exciting part, right? How to organize. Finally, organizing. I have 9 tips about organizing end-to-end design bug bash, and I'm really looking forward, guys, to your comments or your questions after my presentation. I would gladly answer all of them. So the first, days and time. As I've told you already, book the whole day. Even if you are going to be testing just for 3 or 4 hours, you're going to be like smashed boiled potato after it. You won't be able to do anything at all. Your brain gonna be just soaked. So that's the one thing I can 100% guarantee you. The second, place. Please find a place where no one will disturb you and your team. Right now it's kind of easy because we are all working remotely, right? And you can just switch other notification in Slack or cancel all the meetings on your calendar. But once we're back and working at the offices, please try to avoid open floors, especially if other people are working there, and organize your space the way that your team is not going to be disturbed, because you will need the concentration, you will need the focus to grab as much design bags as possible, and also to just empathize with the user, right? So the third one, food. Think about it in advance, order in advance, or book a table in advance, and don't waste your time on thinking where to go, what to eat, etc. If you wanted to go outside, it's a nice break, but do know, please, where are you going and what are you going to be eating there. And I'd recommend to order in advance so that Once you're at the cafe, it's going to be already prepared for you and you won't be waiting there for 40 minutes. So next, break. Kind of connected with the food, but not that much, because don't forget also to make short breaks, at least each 90 minutes. And please schedule it. Otherwise, you will just forget it. Otherwise, you will start testing your scenario and you will wake up 3 hours later. So please schedule it, especially if you are a facilitator, especially if you're an organizer of Design Bangladesh. Then fifth, people. For sure, we need some people, right? So please define who is invited, and not on optional base, but actually try to make it pretty strict. Define all your design members and who is from tech, or who is from product or sales or other departments invited, because you will need to assign scenarios to each person. So each person counts, okay? Then you will need facilitator to track time, to answer all questions, to help with the templates they are going to be preparing. And also you will need some technical person on call in case, for example, your QA version of the app doesn't work, or some credentials just stop working, right? You will need just have a safeguard for tech issues, okay? The sixth, for sure, you will need scenarios to test. That's answers the question what exactly you're going to test, how you're going to be doing it, who is going to be doing will job. It's a separate huge topic. In just 1 minute, just wait for it. For me, I was doing it almost alone, and it took me almost 2 working days to just map and prepare all the scenarios for all of us. It has been 3 scenario for person. It was 3 scenario for person, and we had around 20 people. Yeah, so that's the amount. Of course, once you've done with your scenarios with your design bug bash, you most likely won't spend that time on it, on scenarios, just updating with the new features. But the first time, it's going to take some time. It's not a few hours. Then, tools for bug reports, where and how to report bug, and then you will also need templates for bug reports. Then 8 tech issues. Think about devices. On what devices are you going to be testing it? Do you need laptops? Do you need smartphones or tablets or whatever it could be, depending on your product, right? Then QA software. If you're going to be testing not on live, or if you will test also on QA version, try QA version, install VPN, install your QA app, test and ask your designers to do it in advance. Then you will need chargers if you're doing it somewhere apart from your flat or office. Check network connection. And last but not least, money. Yeah, please allocate a budget for real purchases, because we'd like to test on live product and not on a QA version. We'd like to gather and to be in a user environment, not inside our company QA environment. And we'd like to test everything, because every time there is a difference between QA and live version. Yeah, and also allocate some budget if your product has an opportunity to work with vouchers, special codes, some referral links, referral programs, etc. So also think about it. Okay, now we are going a little bit deeper and deeper and deeper into organizing. And I already mentioned tools for making it. So let's start with this preparation deck. Of course, you can use whatever tool is the most suitable one for you. I'll be talking about my experience and experience at Omio. So we decided to use, for example, Google Slides and Google Sheets, but you will need to think about two things. First, scenarios, where and how map them, the scenarios that are going to be tested. Most probably it won't be just in written line of text. Most probably it consists of different blocks, right? So think about how you can play with these blocks around and where you can play with it. So for us, that's why it was in Google Sheets. And the second, bug reports. Once you find a bug, where are you going to report it and how you're going to be reporting it? For design bug batch, for design bugs, most likely you will need a picture to capture your bug or some animation capture. So also think about it ahead, maybe install some browser add-ons, right? And then think about what's the effort for your designer to put this picture or this animation into your tool for actually bug submits. That's why if you're thinking about, okay, we can do bug submits in Google Sheets, but it's pretty difficult to put pictures there. So think about it in advance. This is our example. So the first is basically table where I was mapping scenarios. To be honest, I prepared two tables. The first table was basically for me as an organizer. It was about making a scenario with blocks. And the second table was an actual table we used during the testing. And there were scenarios which were already filtered by me. And plus, scenarios were assigned to people with its budget and saying like, okay, what to do. So for example, what I mean by scenario, for example, for us, it was, okay, designer, let's say Tom, is going to be testing the scenario number one. It's a round trip from Rome to Milan and back for two passengers. One of them is a senior, for example, right? They're gonna buy one ticket for all passengers, and then they will cancel it. So that's the example of the scenario. Plus, of course, you will need on which device. Is it going to be mobile? Is it going to be web? Is it going to be a tablet? Yeah, some technical stuff. Then the second, for bug reports, for bug submits, we were using Google Slides. And the Google Slides, the deck consists of basically intro, of small presentation to your design team, why we're doing it, how we are going to be doing it, then content. Please keep it clear and clickable for navigation. It should be easy to go back and forth. Then there is a template example, which you're going to be using it, not to create from scratch every time. And of course, then bug submits. So let's now dive more into scenarios. What to put there, what's the focus there, and why. First of all, basic conditions. Basic conditions are, it should be end-to-end. most likely and most preferably it's product live versions, and then gather as much interactions as possible. So if you can interact with it, like purchase, create an account, sign in, contact customer service, apply voucher, apply discount, share with your friends, and etc., etc., etc. The second point, coverage. So scenarios should be different from each other, as much as possible, so that within the whole design bug bash process, you will cover almost all of your product features. So, for example, if Tom is testing for bus from Rome to Milan, it means that another designer, let's say Jen, won't test Rome-Milan bus. She will test train Berlin-Dresden for one passenger who's a teenager, for example. That's how, in general, you will have more coverage for that. And then prioritize. So prioritize amongst the quantity of scenarios. For us, we tested only 3 scenarios per person. And the first scenario is going to be the most overwhelming one. The tester will spend the most amount of time and effort there. So please prioritize wisely, you as organizer, which scenario is most vital and crucial for you. Here's the example, how to actually build the scenario. I'd recommend not to test your golden common path, because most of us are testing it on a daily basis. So so this path is pretty tested and it's pretty common, right? Apart from it, make it a little bit edgy. So for example, here, it's a round trip for 2 persons, which is still golden path, okay? And then one is senior. Our platform, our major user is not a senior, so it's already a little bit edgy. And then he needs to apply his rail card. It's even more edgy. So my recommendation gonna be 70%, keep it as a common flow, or 60, or you know your product better than me. And then just put some edges, some edge cases. What's actually to look there in these scenarios while we are testing them? We are going to be looking for user journeys, for flows, for interactions, of course, visual design, and copywriting. That was our focus. Please put this slide and examples and definitions in your deck. Just provide your team with some references. What does it mean? For example, here, user journey. Does this model make sense there? Why is this step here? All the steps which could frustrate our users. It could be too many steps or too less, etc. etc. It's just nice to help your team and give them some references to look at while they're looking for bugs, right? So, example. For first scenario, we checked every interactive objects and how we are interacting with it. For the second, we were more focused on user friendliness. And the third, honestly speaking, most of us finished only 2 scenarios. And the third scenario focus was native language, because we are a worldwide company, so we have more than 20 languages, and not all of them are perfect. So it's also nice to just check your native language. This is rough estimation of time spent per scenario. As I've told you, the first scenario gonna take you the majority of your time and effort. So for us, it was around 3 hours. The second scenario, 1 hour and a half, and the third up to 30 minutes. Now I'd like to talk a little bit more about teams. Kindly touched it a little bit, but do remember to switch designers and try assign them to the parts of the product they are not that common with, right? So here's an example. For example, if you are an app designer and most of your work is done within an app, please assign him to a testing web scenario, and the opposite, right? Web designer and go and be a testing app. It's just an example. It could be like parts, for example, one designer is working on homepage and the second working help center. So instead of working with their regular pods, they will be switching. We need fresh eyes on our testing, right? Here's the example of template. Make it simple. It shouldn't be overwhelming. It shouldn't take more than 2 minutes to fill it. Then put only useful text there, like submitted by whom, what's the platform, is it QA and prod, the title of the problem, quick, just in bullet points, what's wrong with it, or even sometimes there is no description because it's just obvious to have a screenshot with it. And then think about how your tester gonna highlight some spots, some bugs he found within the picture, right? So here, for example, I prepared some circle and rectangle with a reduced opacity. So a person won't make it by scratch, but can just copy paste, and that's how I'm gonna highlight it. Then content navigation, make it clickable. In your templates, also make a backlink which leads to your contest. Because if your product is not one-step product, if it has journey and different features and different parts of it, and you have pretty complex funnel, the bugs you're going to be finding, they're going to be splitted within these parts, right? So you should be able to jump from one part of it to another. That's why try to make it clickable. It will save time for your team. And then validation. We had a rough validation on each slide. We asked our designers to have a rough validation for user value and design effort. If you are doing so, if you are doing it not within description, if you're doing it just with numbers, like here, so user value can be 1, design effort could be 3, and the opposite. If you're doing it with some scales, and you're not using it on your daily design work, please provide a description, right, in your intro presentation. Please provide the description of what you're actually meaning by it. So everyone going to be plus minus on the same level of understanding what actually large value and large change means. Duplicates. This is one of the painful question. However, don't put too much of your attention there. Don't focus on duplicates while you are still in testing mode. Don't try to look through all other bugs which were created by other team members to just find, is it a duplicate or not? No, don't focus about it. If you found a bug, report it. That's why it should be super simple and took top 2 minutes to report. And once you're done with it, only after the design bug bash testing is ended, then you can assign 2 or 3 people to actually go through it, and just archive your duplicates. After. So, okay, what are you going to be doing after you've done actually design bug bash, right? That's it or no? First, present. Be loud a bit about it. You did a good job. It's actually productive and helpful thing to do. Invite all possible VP levels to presentation, escalate it, scale it up to town hall meetings, be positive about it. Because this design health check should be an open information for the whole company. It's going to raise your user experience awareness, build user experience maturity within your company, right? And it's all start with this analysis of your current design health check, of your current state of the product, right? So please be proud, speak about it, and share with others. Then, after you present it, some job should be done, right? So once you present it and once you escalate it, please make it work. Please make a roadmap, create some tickets, and assign to teams who are actually linked to these tickets and these parts of product. Because otherwise, you should deal with it, at least with your critical bugs, right? So make it useful, fix it. Don't forget to fix your bugs, to analyze and to do a health check is totally a nice thing to do, but it's only the first step. Then the second, measure the progress. It's super easy to slip out of it, like, oh, we did a check, we have 200 bucks, we are productive people. But no, you need to measure the progress of bugs you actually reported. You should update it and then track what's the outcome, how they are fixed, why they are fixed or they are not fixed at all. So please be conscious about it, stay with it and measure. And the last thing, repeat. As I've told you at the very, very beginning, live product changed a lot, right? Which means you will have even more bugs in the future. That's why I'd recommend to do end-to-end design bug bash on annual basis. And I hope that I covered most of your questions of why it could be helpful and how to organize it. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for staying with me. And please, let's get to questions and answers part. See you.